For 6 months and 12 days, Alara's life had been painted in shades of dread. It began not with a bang, but with a whisper, a faint, scratching sound that curled from the edges of her dreams into her waking hours. By day, she was a graphic designer, surrounded by the sterile glow of her computer screen. But by night, she was a prisoner in a labyrinth of her own mind. The dream was always the same. She would find herself standing at the mouth of an impossibly long, dark hallway. The air was cold and still, smelling of dust and forgotten things. At the far end, illuminated by a single, unseen light source, was a door. It was painted a violent, garish red, a wound in the darkness. And from behind it, a relentless, rhythmic scratch would echo, a sound that felt like it was etching itself onto her bones. Alara had become a master of evasion. She filled her evenings with noise, loud podcasts, frantic cleaning, anything to delay the moment her head hit the pillow. She drank sleepy time tea, used lavender sprays, and practiced breathing exercises. She had even moved to a new apartment with bright white walls and large windows, hoping the light would disinfect her mind. But the door followed. The first night in her new home, she dreamed she was arranging a vase of sunflowers in her spotless new kitchen. She turned, and there it was. The familiar hallway had seamlessly grafted itself onto her living room. The red door waited. The scratching was impatient. She woke up screaming into her pillow, the taste of copper and fear in her mouth. Running was futile. The door was inside her. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. She was presenting a design to a client, her hands trembling so violently she had to hide them under the table. The client's face became a blur, and all she could hear was the phantom scratching, overlaying his words. She stumbled through the meeting, her professionalism in tatters. That evening, staring at her hollow-eyed reflection, a new thought emerged, fragile but defiant. What if I stopped running? The idea was terrifying. It felt like volunteering for a root canal without anesthetic. But the exhaustion of constant fear was a heavier burden. If this thing, this door, was a part of her, then perhaps the only way to be free of it was to acknowledge it. To face it. She made a decision. That night, she would not run. In the dream, she would walk towards the door. That night, she didn't fight sleep. She welcomed it, repeating her new mantra like a prayer, "This is my mind. I am in control." And she was back. The dark hallway. The cold air. The red door. The scratching was louder than ever, a frantic, clawing sound that set her teeth on edge. Her every instinct was a siren, blaring run. Wake up! But she didn't. She took one step. Then another. The wooden floorboards groaned under her weight, each creak a drumbeat in the tense silence. Her heart was a wild bird trying to escape its cage of ribs. With each step, the door loomed larger, the red more menacing, the scratching more personal. It felt like it was scratching for her. "This is my mind," she whispered, her voice a frail thread in the vast darkness. "I am in control." She stood before it. The red paint was chipped and peeling. The brass doorknob was tarnished, cold to the touch even in the dream. The scratching had stopped. The silence that replaced it was somehow more deafening, a held breath waiting to be released. This was the moment. This was the threshold between the life of fear she had known and an unknown she had to embrace. Tears streamed down her sleeping face, but her dream hand was steady. She wrapped her fingers around the cold metal. This was not a key she could hold in her hand, it was a key she had to forge in her heart. The key was courage. She took one last, shuddering breath, turned the knob, and pushed the door open. There was no monster. Instead, a blinding, warm, golden light flooded out, washing over her like a wave of pure relief. It dissolved the dark hallway, the fear, the cold. As her eyes adjusted, she saw a small, cramped room. Huddled in the corner was a little girl, no older than 8. It was Alara, from a lifetime ago. This was the year her father had left, the year she decided it was her fault. The little girl was drawing frantic, angry lines on the wall with a piece of chalk, scritch, scratch, scritch. She was trapped in a prison of her own making, built from shame and a child's misunderstanding. The monster was her own unhealed pain. Elara's adult self knelt. The little girl looked up, her eyes wide with fear and tears. "It's you," the present-day Elara whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "All this time, it was just you." The child flinched, expecting anger, rejection. But instead, Elara reached out. She didn't try to stop the scratching or tell the girl she was being silly. She simply opened her arms. The little girl stared for a moment, then crumbled, rushing into the embrace. The moment they touched, the small, dark room dissolved completely. The golden light expanded, transforming into a vast, sun-drenched field under a clear blue sky. The two Elaras, the child and the adult, were now one, whole. The weight she had carried for 20 years simply vanished. Elara woke up. For the first time in 6 months and 12 days, she woke up not from the dream, but through it. There was no gasp, no racing heart. Just a profound, resonant peace. Sunlight streamed through her window, painting her white walls in brilliant gold. The world looked the same, but she was fundamentally different. The fear was gone. In its place was a quiet, unshakable strength. She had faced the worst thing she could imagine, herself, and had not been destroyed. She had been set free. We all have our locked doors. Maybe yours is the memory of a humiliating failure. Maybe it's the ghost of a hurtful word, spoken or heard. Maybe it's the shadow of a future you're terrified to pursue. We paint these doors in frightening colors, red with rage, black with despair, and we spend our lives building hallways to run away from them. We think if we ignore the scratching, it will eventually stop. But it doesn't. It just gets louder. The craziest story you will ever live is not the one of the monster behind the door. It is the story where you discover that the door itself is an illusion. The courage to turn the handle isn't about being fearless, it's about realizing that your freedom, your peace, and your future are more important than the fear itself. So, what's behind your door? Take a breath. Walk forward. Turn the knob. The other side isn't what you think. It's who you were always meant to be.